What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Movie Emporium's TV review of the Netflix original series Love, Death, and Robots Season 4. This will be a countdown of what I think is from the worst to the best of Season 4. So Tim Miller and crew are back for a brand new season of shorts in the Love, Death, and Robots series. Season 4 is consisting of 10 episodes. And once again, it's a collection of what is considered, sci-fi / dramatic / just kind of interesting ideas that the creators of the series, as well as people in the, the cinesphere, stuff like that, feel like they want to put out there to show. David Fincher actually directed an episode, which he hasn't done for this series. And so with the series and me, I'm kind of late to the series, to be fairly honest. I watched the 3 seasons within the last year to get up to date for what will be this 4th season. And so Netflix was nice enough to send me the 4th season. So I'll give a quick short review of my opinions of the 4th season. Then I'm going to do a countdown of what I think the worst to the best of these 10 episodes are. So I'll give like a couple minutes spiel per episode and just kind of talk about it. And so for my review of this season, after watching the first 3 seasons, which were phenomenal, this is a continuation of the phenomenon and the phenomenal nature of what Tim Miller and his crew are doing in the world of shorts. Unfortunately, Secret Level was not a big hit like Tim Miller wanted. So going back to the well and doing Love, Death, and Robots and allowing people like David Fincher and so on and so forth to do shorts really adds to the material strengths of what this series does, which is show interesting ideas and concepts from different creators. You have like Titmouse, you have, of course, Blur Studios, you have just other creators who are coming into the mix who just feel like they have something to tell, whether it be a sci-fi short or something to do with romance or something to do with taking over the world. It's a very interesting season when it comes to Love, Death, and Robots. So this season is pretty good. It's actually quite good, to be fairly honest. Is it as good as the other seasons? It just remains, to be honest. It's an honest opinion type of thing. I thought it's as good as like the last season, to be fairly honest. I think it's, there are some episodes in here that I find like astounding. I find just absolutely riveting to watch. There's one episode, which is my number 1, which I think is one of the greatest things I've ever seen, to be fairly honest, which is difficult to say, but when I come to like shorts and animation and stuff like that. But this season has the spectrum. It does a rock concert. It does a mini short. It does something with cats, actually a couple of things with cats. It actually does a adaptation of a popular book from 2019. And I think what is happening here is the ability for the spectrum of creativity to go out there in the open. I liked Secret Level. I like what Tim Miller and crew were doing there. But clearly this is where their strengths lie, in doing original stuff, doing ideas that kind of flourish in short form fashion, stuff like that. And so therefore, for the season, I'm going to give it like a 9.5 out of 10, because though I think some of the shorts are a little bit weaker than others, I still think they're fascinating. So when I say the worst episode of this season, it's still a pretty fascinating episode, but it's just not as strong as like the first episode or the first, my number 1. So it's a really good collective group of individuals when it comes to what they're creating. And on top of that, they got a great group of individuals. They got like John Boyega, they got like Rysh, Darby, they got, all kinds of people in this series. It's crazy that, once a series becomes popular, it's very, very easy for a director and a writer and crew that create these series to get like very famous people. So you'll hear like Kevin Hart in one of these episodes and stuff like that. So it's a series that has garnered the ability to do that kind of stuff, and the profit and the amount of money it makes and stuff like that, and the amount of money it puts on the screen, because there's a couple of shorts in this series, especially in the season, that are absolutely just like amazing to look at. They're actually quite aesthetically pleasing when it comes to the animation. That's in part of thanks to like Blur Studios has been doing this stuff for years when it comes to the animation. You saw them do like the Halo cutscenes that they revamped, and of course they did the South Park thing, the animation sequence. I think they did some stuff with Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that, but it really is creative. I think Tim Miller and company really do a nice job, and at allowing David Fincher to do what David Fincher does, which is create a really interesting music video for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, is a plus, because David Fincher is like one of the best music video directors ever to make a video, as well as being a great director in his own right. So with that said, that's kind of where I lean on this review. But with that said, I'm going to go into my least favorite to my best favorite of the season. Once again, my best favorite is going to be what I think is one of the best shorts I've ever seen. And this is just my opinion. That's just how I feel. Once again, these are spoilers. It's just like a couple minutes, but there are spoilers. So if you have not seen the series, please watch it and then come back. They're, once again, the shorts range from like 7 minutes to like 14 minutes, so they're not very long, but they vary in quality. So that's just kind of how I look at it. And so number 10 is Golgotha. It is the only live action short in this series. It has Rhys Darby in it. I have to be fairly honest. It's an interesting short. It has to do with priests trying to not F up, which I thought was very, very funny when they're like, don't F it up. Having to make like almost like contact with an alien race. And it also deals with the alien race believing a dolphin is a god. And I don't hate this episode. I found it very funny, actually. It's very funny in a very dark manner. But there are some things that happen in this short that I feel are cut short, to be fairly honest. I think this could have been like a 14-minute episode instead of like a 7-minute episode and would have worked. I think it is fascinating. I think it looks gorgeous. I think it's shot well. You know, I think it's an episode directed by Tim Miller, and I think it's an episode that has a lot to say about society and how we are scared of everything and how we view aliens, like, you know, like people from other countries when we call them aliens, and how we think they're going to attack us. And it takes the alien invasion spin and goes for it. But I didn't find this one as great as I thought it was. I probably would give it like a 6 out of 10, to be fairly honest, because I think Rhys Darby does a really nice job of what he's doing, but I just think it's just not very that great, to be fairly honest. I think it's one of the weaker of the season, and probably one of the weaker of the series, to be fairly honest, because it's good, but just not great, to be fair. It's just how I look at it. So number 10 is Golgotha, which, once again, very pretty, interesting premise. Laugh because dolphins seem to be gods or whatever, and the alien talks to the dolphin, but just overall, just not something I would really enjoy that much. So that's just kind of how I look at it. But that's at number 10. So at number 9 is Spider Rose. I loved this episode when it first started. The idea of like a robotic AI who used to be human that is now alone, I think on, is like, it looks like Saturn or Jupiter or something like that. And it is given the alien race wants something from this AI, this robot or whatever, and the robot doesn't want to give it up, but they offer, well, take this creature for 90 days or whatever, and then we'll, of course, you know, if you think it's all right, you'll give us like the minerals or whatever it is. And I thought, like, for the most part, for two-thirds of it, I thought was pretty good. And then the aliens started attacking the Rose or whatever, the creature, the robot and stuff like that. And I thought it kind of fell apart, to be fairly honest. I thought it was an interesting premise. I didn't really get what they were going for at the end, but I thought it was still interesting. I thought the creature was cute. I thought it had a very deep heart when it came to like the symbiotic nature between the creature and the android or whatever you want to call it. But it just wasn't as good as I was hoping for. It is directed by one of the lead animators, which is Jennifer Yu Nelson. But I don't think this hit as well as I was expecting. Once again, I was really enjoying it for the first 2/3, and then it kind of goes places. Like, I think the alien, like, morphs with the android and it like hatches. I don't know. It's really weird, but it wasn't something that I really truly love. So number 9 is, you know, Spider Rose. It is what it is. So it's not terrible. I probably would give it like a 7.5 out of 10, but it's still interesting, but just not great. So there you go. So number 8 is one called The Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. It's directed by Tim Miller. This has a really interesting art style, but it's very heavy-handed when it comes to its premise. You know, MrBeast plays the main like narrator when he's narrating to this rich group of individuals, and it's like a Roman Colosseum type of situation where there is bloodletting and there's a race to the death, and there's, you know, creatures like Triceratops, and then Tyrannosaurus pops up. And then, of course, LIng is like narrating her story and stuff like that. And it's kind of like alpha males and wolves and stuff like that. And then it turns into, you know, taking down the rich or attacking the rich. And it's an interesting story. It's very beautiful. It has some cool violence in it, but it's just, once again, it just is what it is. MrBeast is not terrible in it. I was not expecting to like it because MrBeast is in it. But it could add some more flair. It could add some more flourishes it does have some really cool like action sequences, and the idea of like, if you ever seen Elysium or Interstellar, the big ring or something like that, you can see them like running up the ring. And it's cool when you see them get like trampled by the Triceratops and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the Tyrannosaur comes out, and it's really cool. I thought it was a lot of fun. So it's like an 8 out of 10. So it's not terrible. It's just kind of the middle of the road when it comes to the series. So that's kind of where I see the Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. Once again, this is directed by Tim Miller. But it's very beautiful. It looks gorgeous. It's one of the prettiest film episodes of the series, but just not like my favorite thing of the series. So that's just kind of how I look at it. So that number 8 is the Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. And so that leads at number 7, which is The Other Large Things, which I thought had like an adorable premise, to be fairly honest. This is when the series starts getting like pretty good. I just didn't like where this ends. I didn't really like the aesthetic of the I know the adults, the humans, are supposed to look like ugly and grotesque and stuff like that, and the way they talk like idiots. And I understand what they're going for when it comes to how humanity treats like the lower class and stuff like that. And I love when they have cats trying to take over the world, and they have like the mind of what a cat would be like. And I thought that was pretty funny. But when the idea of like the cat like controlling the robot is clever, and like taking over the world, like peeking the brain, is clever. But it just ends so abruptly and so violently that it kind of like, oh, 8 out of 10, I guess. But it has some really great moments, and it's overall just kind of a good episode, a fun episode, but it didn't stick the landing. So it's an 8 out of 10. So it's still good, but it's still, a 7 on the list of 10 episodes. So an 8 out of 10 is where I kind of land with this. So number 6 on the list that I have is For He Can Creep. This is based off the short story. This is a very interesting story. I thought it's very pretty, in the same vein of like a Persepolis style of animation, which I'm not entirely sure what it's called. So you can tell me in the comments what it is. But it's a very cool story. The devil is trying to manipulate a poet that's in jail, and the cat has to defend the poet from the devil, and there's a bunch of cats that like attack the devil, and it's about how a big entity controls a little entity to do its bidding and stuff like that. Very corporate world type of thing. It's very pretty. It has heart to it. It's very interesting. It's a story I'd never heard before, but it's supposedly won a lot of awards. It's the original story based off of and stuff like that. So I have to give it a lot of credit for being creative in its art style and being creative in the storytelling. And once again, it's just a fun story. It has, once again, a cat that talks and has a bunch of other cats that talks. And I don't know. I like it. It's an 8.5 out of 10 for me. But it has like Dan Stevens and Jim Broadbent and Nick Futterman and all kinds of people in it. So it's a good episode. I definitely recommend it. So 8.5 out of 10. So number 5, halfway through the list. This one is Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners. This has a pretty good collection of actors in it. Ronnie Chang, Amy Sedaris, Kevin Hart, Josh Brenner, Nate Faxon, Brett Goldstein. I laughed. This is the funniest episode of the series, to be fairly honest. It's very clever. It's basically it's like what would happen if the appliances could tell you how they feel about their owners and how their owners treat them. And it's very mature. There is adult toys in this. That is very funny. It's the eclectic group of like how we spend our money on useless things. And like, there's a point where there's I think a sandwich maker in a closet saying it's going to get used at some point. It's very funny. I really enjoyed it. It's not the greatest story in the world, but from a point of view of the appliances, like the Brave Little Toaster, but more mature and adult, I found it funny. So it's an 8.5 out of 10 for me. It has very funny moments. Once again, has an adult toy in it, which I thought was very funny. But that's how I look at it. So number 5 is Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners. Number 4 is 400 Boys. This is an episode of what would happen if the Warriors took place in Britain and a gigantic group of baby monsters destroyed. It's basically a look at war and the destruction of war and how people and allies group together that were once enemies to defeat a common good. And I think this is one of the most beautiful segments. I think it's one of the darkest segments. I think it's interesting. It's very, very violent. It has John Boyega. It has Ed Skrein. It has, Amar, Chadha-Patel. It's just an interesting segment. The biggest problem with it is it just ends too quickly. It could be like 5 minutes longer, but I think it has a really, really cool kind of British style to it. It's, very warrior-esque when it comes to the groups and the gangs. And it's very cool. It really is. It's a 9 out of 10, to be fairly honest. It would surprise me. It is weird. It is different. It could be a little bit longer, but I think for an episode, I think it's very fun. So at number 4 is 400 Boys. Number 3 is... So at number 3, of course, is a straight up music video, which is really interesting, but is a very creative one by David Fincher. Red Hot Chili Peppers is one of my favorite bands of all time. They really are. But this is like a really in the pocket of what David Fincher is known for doing, which is really creative, really distinct music videos. He's done everything from Madonna to Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that when it comes to music videos. And this one is very cool because it's all puppets. It's very much a CGI puppet movie or a puppet short, but it's very much like all the Red Hot Chili Peppers, all the people in the crowd, they're all puppets, and you see all the strings of each individual character. It's really fascinating. It plays Can't Stop, which is a song, and it's a really just kind of cool look, and it like goes through different moments of Red Hot Chili Peppers' career, even to the point where they just wore socks on stage on their genitals, which is pretty funny. But it's really cool how the camera moves throughout this music video, how it structures itself. It really feels like a David Fincher story when he like does his shots and how he does it. If you've ever seen only from the Nine Inch Nails music video, there is a way that David Fincher shoots and the way he kind of places the camera, even in virtual space, that really is kind of kinetic and cool. And it's unlike anything you've ever seen. And once again, it's not the best of the season, but it's a very cool David Fincher music video that I gave a 9.5 out of 10 because I really fell in love with the idea of what it was doing. And it's based off a live show that they did, the Red Hot Chili Peppers did. And I just thought it was a really cool thing. So it is a short that has, once again, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It is a music video, but it is a really cool concept. So there you go. So number 2 is How Zeke Got Religion. This is from Titmouse, the animation studio. This is a very cool heavy metal coated Don Bluth / Ralph Bakshi type short where it has that feel of that 80s aesthetic when it comes to like it's very kind of I don't know how to exactly explain the animation style, but it's very metal in its feel, but it's very disturbing. It's about a group of World War II pilots who basically fly over what is being a cult like Nazi regime that is basically resurrecting the devil or some kind of demon that eventually attacks the World War II plane. And they basically have to fight it off. And it's basically about how religion and cults and how the military in World War II were up against the odds and how many people die for very stupid reasons. And it's a very, very cool short. It has like Roger Craig Smith and Bruce Thomas in it. It's a short that just bleeds of that 80s aesthetic when it comes to its violence, when it comes to its hardcore nature, and just something that kind of blew me away. Once again, it's like a 9.5 out of 10 when it comes to just this really, really cool aesthetic and feel and temperament. When it comes to its like heavy metal style, it's really cool. If you ever seen stuff like, Freak on a Leash, or you ever seen anything that like, Pearl Jam did with that kind of stuff, or Disturbed, it has that very quality feel. So it's a very cool, very 9.5 out of 10 style short, and one of my favorites of this season. So there you go. So with that said, number 1 is called Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. I think there was another short that did something similar to this, but this is what would happen if you took like a camera, like Civilization, you never zoomed down on the characters, but you kept it up in like the very god level look. But what makes it so good is the simple fact that it's an alien invasion similar to like Independence Day or Mars Attacks, but it's very, very funny. It's very gory. It's very dark, but it's comedic in its nature because of what it's doing, how the people are talking, how it's using its kind of weird aesthetic of like little characters running around, like chasing aliens, being attacked by aliens. There's a point where there's a guy who gets probed in a very funny fashion. It's a very cleverly put together short that kind of really put me another sphere. It's up there with like one of my favorite shorts I've ever seen because it's just so cleverly done, so funny, so irreverent, so just bonkers good. And I love alien invasion movies, and I felt this was like up there with some of the best I've ever seen. Once again, it does It does borrow heavily from the Mars Attacks and Independence Day, but go in knowing that this is just a very cool, very fun 7-minute alien invasion with some really kind of crazy M-rated stuff, and it's just very, very funny and very gory, and just watching the little people run around like, you know, and they're going, it's really funny. So number 1 on this season is Close Encounters of the Mini Kind, and I highly recommend this one as probably one of the best in the series, to be fairly honest. So there you go. But once again, that's kind of where I rank the season. You'll have a different list, I'm sure, but just to go through the top 10 again is Golgotha, Spider Rose, Screaming of the Tyrannosaurus, The Other Large Things, For Heek and Creeps, Smart Appliances, Stupid People, 400 Boys, Can't Stop, of course, the How Z Got Religion, and then of course, Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. That's a lot of talking. I do apologize. I know it's a long video, but it's a really great season. Once again, there are a wide-ranging collection of videos and shorts, and I think it's a well worth your watch. Once again, it's a 9.5 out of 10 for the season, even though some are like, you know, worse than others, because it's just, there is creativity there, and I love creativity, and it shows that they have heart. It shows they have, you know, logic and reason, and it's a beautiful thing. So overall, great season, highly recommended. So with that said, thank you so much for watching my review and countdown of my top 10 of this season, what I think, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. So in the comments below, let me know your top 10 of this season. Like, what is your favorite? What is your least favorite? All that good stuff. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell, top fonts coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.